Happy Sunday, folks. Here we are. This is the first Mike Hill podcast. We're going to kick off live from Menlo Park, California. We'll go through today. We'll get through what happened in high school sports in the Bay Area. We'll review the top 25 for West Coast preps, and we'll see how these teams fared. We'll also have a special guest to me as well. It'll be Jake Bianchi, our quarterback at Menlo School, who had a great performance yesterday versus North Salinas. So let's get to it. After reviewing the top 25 for West Coast preps, it looks like 7 out of the top 25 teams took a loss this weekend. And there are a lot of teams on the waiting list knocking to get into that top 25, including the Menlo Knights. So after this week, we plan to see a different top 25 and see who will drop, who will rise. But there were a lot of losses. And that's what usually happens in preseason rankings. All you can base it off is last year's performance, players' expectations, and just kind of just sees what happens. So let's take a look here. I think the game of the week had to go to Sarah versus Folsom. Sarah drives up 2.5 hours to Folsom, California, and knocks off a top-tier team in Folsom. I think the score in that game was 17-12, and Sarah took the lead. Sarah looks like to be one of the top teams in the CCS, and they are ranked high in the state. I have a lot of respect for those guys over there. And for me, that will be the top game next week. Again, it'll be Sarah versus De La Salle. I think Coach Walsh coached back there in his early years at De La Salle. So there'll be a lot of motions flowing. And it looks like these teams could be the team to represent the Northern California in the open division. So that's a game to look out for. That'll be Sarah versus De La Salle next week. As I check my notes, I wanted to give a shout out to a few players that had high performances. If you guys follow me on Twitter, it's at Coach Mike Hill SF. I asked you who put in work this weekend, who did what they needed to do on the field and deserve a shout out. And one of the players of the week for me will be Charles Brown Jr. out of Antioch. I believe Charles was at Pittsburgh last year, who did really well for the Pittsburgh Pirates, and now he is with Antioch High School, and his stats were 289 yards rushing, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception versus the outing against Monte Vista. And that was a big time matchup. Monte Vista has a great coach and Coach Johnny Millard, who's a defensive guru, and Charles was able to put up great numbers against them. My other player of the week will be Devon Rivers out of Heritage High School. I believe that's out in Brentwood, Oakley. He rushed for 203 yards on 16 carries and ended the day with 4 touchdowns. So that's a great outing for these young kids. If I mentioned you in this video, please tag me on the Twitter, if that's what West Coast Preps are, my personal Twitter, so I can show you some love and let these college scouts and recruiters know who you are. So again, shout out to Charles Brown, who had 289 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns and an interception on defense, and Devon Rivers, 16 carries, 203 yards and 4 touchdowns. As we move forward, let's just talk about the transition of myself. So last year, I was lucky enough to coach at Sacred Heart Cathedral in San Francisco, and we had a dream season, right? We had a dream season. We were able to catch our win at the right time and pulled through a state championship, the first ever state championship for Sacred Heart Cathedral. So that's a magical moment. During this off season, there were some coaches changes at Sacred Heart Cathedral. And in that moment, I decided to make a coaching change for myself, and I joined Menlo School here in Atherton, California. And it's been a remarkable experience, man, just to come to a new program that has a new established winning tradition. I believe they went 16-2 in the last few years, and I got lucky enough to be able to coach some top tier players. So usually when you transition from different schools, sometimes you don't get the best of players. That's how it goes. But I got lucky to walk into a program with a great foundation led by Todd Smith, who's our head coach, and great players. So as we get into the Menlo Knights, I will welcome my first guest, who a kid that I've got really close to over these since I believe like around March, early in the spring, we started establishing this relationship to be great this season. So I'll bring on Jake Bianchi. We'll ask him a few questions, and we'll see what he has to say. Cool, Jake. So thanks for coming on the show. We're doing this podcast live at your house. It's only right. So let's just talk about yesterday's performance, the score, how it started, how it ended, and just your view from a player with yesterday's game versus North Salinas.
Yeah, I think it was a great way to start the season. We started it off, the first kickoff we received, Ty Richardson, our running back and defensive back, took it straight to the house. I didn't even get to touch the ball, but we started off with a 6-0 lead.
And I think that was an 84-yard touchdown by Ty Richardson. As you know, I work with a lot of high school players here in the Bay Area, and I believe that Ty Richardson has the ability and the skills to play at a Division I level. He's starting to get a lot of interest from different programs. And the first kickoff of his senior year, he took it back to the house, and he made me and Jake's job a little bit easier. So we went up 7-0 with a little cushion, and then after that, Jake, you took the field, and we kind of just pushed it down the field. Can you talk about that first drive? You're under center, your senior year. How'd it go?
Yeah, we started off the first drive with some good field position. Our defense came up with a big stop, a good punt return. Didn't take this one to the house, but took it pretty close. I think we started around the 20-yard line. We wanted to start pretty simple on offense, get some RPOs in, see what they're going to come out in on defense. So handed the ball off a couple times, and then ended up throwing basically a bubble screen to my tight end, Court Halsey, for first touchdown.
First touchdown, senior to senior. Court Halsey is number 8. Court Halsey is one of the top tier tight ends here in our area. He is going to be going to University of North Carolina next year to be a Tar Heel. So he's a big time player. Court started us off, and Court actually ended the game with 3 touchdowns, 3 receiving touchdowns. He had a 75-yard bubble pass, and he's about 6'3", 220 pounds, and he left the defense, kind of in his tail. So Court's a big time player. Let's see here. Let's talk about a player that that kind of surprised you and is starting to be a reliable player for us, Charlie King.
Yeah, Charlie King didn't start the game. He wasn't supposed to start the game, but he came in on our second drive and right away had I think it was like a 50-yard touchdown. Just he took a hitch and made a couple moves, ran past people, and took it all the way to the crib. He had a couple catches, probably about 85, close to 100
yards. Close to 100
yards.
I agree.
And I began to trust him, and he's became really reliable for us since the fall.
Perfect. So you brought up trust. As a quarterback, how important is it to be able to trust your receivers? How does that make you feel, like when you decide who should throw the ball, reading the defense, et cetera?
It's extremely important. Obviously, the first priority, like you said, is reading the defense. If I can throw to one open guy, I'm going to throw to him. But really, where the trust part comes in is if there's 2 open guys. If 2 people are running different routes or even the same route, and obviously we've practiced with them for months, and now we'll continue to practice with them for the whole year. I know exactly what people can and can't do, and that influences my decision on who to give the ball to, who I think can make a play or maybe who won't. But I have a lot of trust in all my guys, and they've showed me a lot of playmaking ability throughout the fall and until now, and I'm going to continue to give everybody the ball.
Absolutely. See, I agree with you, Ben. So just being an offensive coordinator, I often talk to you about who can we trust, who can we rely on, and who do you feel comfortable with. So just as a coordinator, I feel like that we got a deep wide receiving core that we can trust. Anybody can pop in and make plays. So that's definitely an advantage for us in our offense. So let's just talk about your stats, Jake. Your first outing starting, right? You had to sit back behind an all-state quarterback. Now it's your turn, right? And you're taking advantage of the opportunities that are presented for you. You went 11 for 12, 201 yards, 4 touchdowns, passing, and 2 touchdowns receiving, which I was shocked because, I know you rushing, rushing touchdowns, because we see you as a 6'5", tall frame, strong arm quarterback, but you have ability to take the ball and move outside the pocket. So 2 rushing touchdowns, total of 6 touchdowns on the day. And Jake also one of the players of the week. That's a immaculate performance and near perfect performance if there wasn't a late drop in the third or fourth quarter when we were up by a lot of points. So that is a great game. So let's just get into it. So I want to talk about your expectations for the team. As being the captain and the leader of our team, I want to talk about the expectations for yourself, and I'll chime in on where I see fit. So what's your expectations for Menlo football this season, coming off the season last year where you guys fell short to Wilcox in the CCS championship? What's your expectation moving forward now that it's your team?
Yeah, last year we had a near perfect season, 10-0 in the regular season, went into the Division II playoffs, won 2 games, made it to the championship, and we had high expectations for ourselves there, but we came short. And that's our main goal as a team this year. We know what we did last year, and we know what we can do this year, and we just really want to finish, and we want to get a CCS championship and keep going, see if we can go NorCal, state, whatever we can do.
Absolutely. So it sounds like when I first came to Menlo, it sounds like that Wilcox loss in the CCS championship has been used as fuel, right? A reminder to the shortcomings, but motivation to move past that this year. Do you think that's true, Jake?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody who was there on that day knows what happened and knows what that feels like. That's the only time the whole year we felt like that. And it's the one that mattered most. And
Absolutely, man.
we don't want to feel that again.
I agree with you. I don't think that winning's everything, but it sure does feel better when you win. So we're using that as motivation. I came off the state championship run, and I'm using that as motivation too, right? We hear the noise, right? Menlo's the small school, the private school, the rich kids. Coach Mike could have been a fluke, got lucky with a state championship, however the case may be. So we hear y'all, right? And we're here to prove these doubters wrong and just reinsure ourselves and our confidence in ourselves moving forward. So we want to make the playoffs, right? And we know that anything in the playoffs is possible. All you got to do is get there, and sky's the limit. So let's look forward to our next week, Jake. Before we'll keep in the expectations. Our next week, we play Kings Academy. Kings Academy came off a tough loss to Mountain View. Mountain View was also a CCS playoff team last year. They came off a loss. I believe the score was 35-20. You guys also at Menlo, prior to my arrival, played TKA. So what's our mindset or your mindset going into TKA since you've played them? We understand that they have a very good running back and they got a pretty good defense. So what's your expectations going into next week, and how are you preparing for that?
Yeah, so we played them last year, early in the season in our preseason. They were in the Bay Division last year while we were below them in the Ocean. But we played them. We won that game. I got in as the backup, played pretty much a whole half, and got myself a couple touchdowns. But we know they were a very young team last year, young quarterback. Their starting running back was a sophomore last year. He's coming up to be a junior. We know he's one of the best players on that team. I believe they have a new offensive coordinator. They're going to come up with a little bit of a different offense, so we're not exactly sure what to expect, but we have high expectations for ourselves.
Absolutely, I agree. So, we often hear it's not necessarily the team that you play against, it's how we play, right? So we're focused on being efficient, being clean, being disciplined. So we got some things to clean up, right? We won 47-7 yesterday, but the strangest thing is it didn't seem like the kids were satisfied, right? It looked like we won, but a lot of the kids were upset. And that's a good thing. Usually when you win by that much, 40 points, it's easy to overlook things, but we're locked in. We're never going to underestimate any team, right? So we'll be prepared, sound for TKA. We know they'll come out hard with a fight. They want to avenge their first loss this season, which was, it was actually a pretty close game. So they'll be ready to go. Let's see here, Jake. So let's just talk about we're moving forward, and I'll come back and circle back once I let Jake go. Let's just talk about your college aspirations, right? So during this summer, you did hit the camp circuit, right? How many camps did you go to, and what camps did you go to?
I believe I went to about 10 different camps. I went to UC Davis a couple times. I went to a Stanford camp a couple times. I opened off my camp circuit with a UC Berkeley, a Cal camp. I went down to Cal Poly, and also up to the mega camp at Sac State for 2 days.
Perfect. So let me ask you a question. So that was, that may have been your first camp circuit. How did you feel? What type of feedback were you getting back from these coaches? And how does that feedback help you this year as the senior starting quarterback?
Yes, that was my first time going to camps like that. I was getting a lot of positive feedback from a lot of coaches. It's tough because last year I played under, we were talking about earlier, all-state quarterback. He threw 54 touchdowns, ran for another 20, something like that. It was crazy. So a lot of what the coaches were telling me were just they need to see how I play this year, because last year I didn't have to lead the team. I didn't have to start. I was kind of just coming in when I needed to. So now as the leader of the team, the starting quarterback, deciding how the game goes was really most important for me now.
Absolutely. So, just off my experience, man, Jake has the ability to play at the next level. What level that may be, that'll be dependent upon the scouts and how the season goes and how Jake performs. But I guarantee you, he will have an opportunity to play college football. He has the ability to play at a Division I level. So I will keep pushing him every day, right? Me and Jake, we talk. So I'm pushing him to the best of his abilities to get the best out of him, right? So it'll be a love-hate relationship, but that's the way you need people like that in your corner to help you be successful. So we'll do that together. Cool, Jake. So, man, I just want to thank you for coming on. This is my first ever Mike Hill podcast, and it was only fitting. It was our first game together as offensive coordinator and quarterback, and we won the game. It was only fitting to have you out on the show, man. So I really appreciate you coming out, and I look forward to working with you the rest of the season, man. Hopefully we can keep this thing going to December. But thanks, Jake. Appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, man. Great to be here.
Cool. So that was our guest, Jake, man. I appreciate him taking time out of Sunday to come on to this Mike Hill podcast show. So this show, we kept it brief. And next show, we'll continue to add to it. So we'll always review the top 25. We'll get to the game of the week and we'll dive into some games. So people that follow West Coast Preps or follow me on Twitter, make sure you tag me into your performances. Let me know what's going on in the Bay. I'll be out at different games on Friday night. Since we typically play on Saturdays, I'll be able to check some games out live. So you might catch me around the games near you. So thanks everybody who's been supporting me throughout this journey, this coaching journey. It's been absolutely amazing. I just want to thank West Coast Press for allowing me to have this platform. And I hope that you guys continue to chime in, subscribe, and follow the Mike Hill podcast. Thank you.